Hello, everyone, and welcome to another amusing Panda Warmachine Enlightened stream. We're so excited that you're here with us tonight. I'm going to apologize in advance. My voice is almost completely gone. We have some very special guests. We have the one and only Erica Bev from Tried and True, who's going to hang out with us. The princess of House Kalis herself. We'll be talking about the Phantasm along with a report on Siege. And then, as always, my partner in crime, Alex Cosma, is joining us to talk about why he's going to switch to Brine Blood soon and prove to Dan Riker that they're actually good. So, I guess welcome, guys. Say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Hello. I'm back. Also, my voice is on the verge of breaking thanks to my New York trip and picking up some strep along the way. So, low-key, we kind of drafted Erica, I guess, to talk for both of us.
Exactly, right? All right, well, let's... excuse me, let's do something fun. Erica, do you want to help us talk about this bad boy?
The Phantasm. So, this is like, so for my Dusk House Kalis community, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Wednesday memery that goes on in the Trash Panda Discord. So it's just been this ongoing thing for months and months. And I'll be honest, Wednesday morning up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon has always been a treat for me because people come up with some very funny things. So now that it's here, now that it's out, it's exciting. Getting a new model, especially a big, beautiful model like this, it's bittersweet, but we are excited that it is here. So Phantasm, it is our Colossal for Dusk House Kalis. I've played it 4 times now, proxying, of course, War Table. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun. It brings a lot of utility that I feel like the army has been really missing out on, and we've been leaning harder into that mercenary catalog. So like your Big Pig, your Invictus. So it's nice to have something that's in faction that can fill that role for us.
It's interesting. As a Jack, there are a couple of ways to build it, and the configuration I've seen the most of is it has 2 principal strengths that are mutually exclusive. One is very, very, very cheap. And it's essentially a big dumb body that will mess you up if you try and tangle with it wrong. And the other is you can build it expensive to bring way more firepower and some very bizarre support utility. I haven't really seen any crossovers between those niches, but almost every time I've seen it on the field is like 26 points. Let's go with a ton of boxes and just make a particular region of the board challenging to deal with.
I think the most important thing that this thing does is it has this AoE 3 flare gun. Just the -2 defense will help us in so many ways because you can apply it to multiple models. And a lot of times we're really good at killing one thing. Like we debuff it with mortality and we kill it. But we can have real trouble hitting things consistently. Like Slayers for me, I don't know why. Slayers for me always hit 1 out of 3 hits. Doesn't matter what my 5s to hit, 4s to hit, doesn't matter. 1 out of 3 hits every time, and half the time the one that hits crits, which is nice, but it's still not great. So this is the part I'm looking forward to the most, is just enabling more consistency in your army in important situations, like clearing a zone. Like you just drop that AoE 3 in there, it's all -2 defense, 3 or 4 models, and you go to town on those models, and it's great. I think that's going to be really, 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 really a powerful effect. I think it's worth noting that I feel like this is more of a backline piece and then what should move up late game. It's got good enough ranged attacks where it can be doing work every turn or enabling with its -2 defense gun without having to get in there and mix it up too early, because it is a little fragile. It does only have 58 boxes,
Oh, it's only armor 19. It will 100% die. Like,
Yeah.
speaking from the field, once this thing's committed, it's But to echo your point, John, so the big thing about that flare gun too is before this thing came out, we really only had 2 models that could help us with our hit fixing. That was comes to mind is Helith and Moraine. One is a feat, and then another is spell dependent. So now, like, I know you're big on Team Hazi. Well, now you can bring this guy with Hazaroth, and now you have that hit fixer that you didn't have before.
Actually, I'm super excited for Nastilla and Aberration with Hazaroth because they also have Shadow Binding Sprays.
Oh, yep.
So they can do the hit fixing for me and cast revives for me, which I think is like a lot to put in one package for Hazaroth, but that's a story for another day. Also, it makes me sad his feet does not work on this thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is wrong. I think it should.
So the one thing that I really liked about the design of this model, so when you take the first 4 armies that came out in Mark IV, House Callus is, I think, the 4th one, right? We have Signar, we had Storm Legion, Winter Corps, Sea Raiders, and House Callus. And I don't want to come off and say those armies, I want to say like field dated, but there is a difference when you're looking at, like, I've been messing around with old Umbre, right? All those models sing. Everything synergizes really, really well together. And it's a little bit clunkier with some of these older armies. What I love about the Phantasm is it feels like a natural evolution and growth of the Eidolon. So maybe in the future, with the January update, we start seeing a little bit more movement in this direction, which has gotten me really excited as someone that's been with the army since they first came out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I also just point out, I feel like this guy goes with almost all our casters in some way. All of them can use it pretty well. I like the idea of putting a def buff on it, like Poltergeist with Scarafell. That seems like that would be pretty good. Making you def 16 versus ranged attacks seems fine.
Or def 13 in melee. Like, this also, is a base def 11 colossal. Like, that's pretty rad.
It is pretty cool. Yeah.
This is the sixes thing you were talking about. And if we ever, do the dice math breakdown, sixes are an unpleasant territory to live in. So this means like mat 7 heavies and stuff like that coming into a def 13 model are going to fail to hit an uncomfortable amount of times in most scenarios.
Yeah, I think you almost get more mileage out of a def buff than you do an armor buff on this guy. Not necessarily, but that's how it kind of feels to me, situationally speaking, of course. But yeah, there's just a lot to like here. It's cheap. It also hits plenty hard. It's power 21, right, with its fists.
With crit decap on top of that.
Yeah.
So you get that crit. I played it over the weekend and into an aberration, and I crit into it. It was dice plus 7. I did like 18 damage to it.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty sick.
I love it. I want to live that dream. Yeah.
So question for you guys, if those of you played it, do you have a favorite point loadout that you've been messing around with?
I like it at 26 points.
Okay.
Cheap as I can make it. But I in general don't like colossals because I don't like putting that many points in one model.
Okay.
Because sometimes people are really good at killing one model and I get really sad,
That's fair.
So yeah.
Alex, how about you?
I tend to like when I've seen it on the table, the cheap and cheerful variety as well.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. Ate part of my mustache. The reason for that is, while it has a lot of support options and can increase its output substantially with some variety of effects, its output still isn't like wild at the expensive side. It's good. And there are probably some casters that would actually prefer a more offensively dynamic variant. The cheap and cheerful thing, though, is like it's way over one heavy's worth of commit most of the time to take it out.
Mhm.
And it takes up space really well. If you're not going to take the whole thing out, unless you're playing an extremely long plan, putting attacks into it is a waste of time. And I sense this will probably be a theme from the weekend, at least for me and John.
Mhm.
Yeah, it does a lot by being modestly threatening and modestly difficult to take out, and like just inconvenient enough that it can just own a sector of the board unchallenged, because challenging it often isn't worth it.
Mhm. Yeah, one thing I will see people meme on the Dust Jacks. The one thing I really like about them across the board is they're very toolboxy jacks, so they're not just bringing the hammer to the fight. And I really like that. And this thing just screams toolbox, can do what you need it to do when you need it to do it. So I've been having so much fun playing the Phantasm.
Yeah, I mean, random Thunderbolt wins games. We talked about the Radiant Blast, right?
That speed -2 gun's really good too, especially into other colossals. Like if you're worried about the trike. So without being able to cast Hunter's Mark on the Phantasm, if you ping that thing with the -2 speed, you out threaten the trike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and range 12 is just exactly the right range, particularly if you're up against the Mastodon, the Maelstrom, and the Abyssal King.
Mm-hmm.
If you can scoot to, between 12 and 10 inches of it and just, tap them with that, almost all the time in those factions, they can't get to you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So you just get to stun lock them a little bit, which is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, then you put them to the test. Like, do you want to back up, or do you want to get charged by me? It's like kind of.
Yeah, but it's really exciting because I think it's been over a year since our last release. And we've been feeling it, you guys. The Dust community, we've been feeling it since January. Gosh dang, we talked about it earlier. Scarafell ruined it for everybody, but it's really exciting to have a new model, and it's beautiful. I am dreading transporting this thing, so I pre-ordered mine today. I'm excited to get it in my hands and see what kind of surgery we have to do to get this thing on airplanes.
Put some extra magnets in for the wings and stuff.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, that's a good point. Ancillary attack with the AOE gun means that you can put -2 defense on anything.
Yeah, you can
right?
spread it. You can spread it, so you can ancillary attack something that's already flared. So you're essentially rat 8 into it, and then help spread that AOE 3 out. It's very strong.
Yeah, I like that a lot. But that's why we like Wrecker. He's a smart boy. All right. Well, I think bringing up Scarafell brings us into our next topic really well, Erica. This is why we had her on, because she's professional at this stuff. It's a great transition.
Taking the funk. Y'all give me too much credit.
No, I mean, Tried and True definitely has some of the best content like out there.
Oh,
but I don't want to get too fluffy right now. I talk about you guys every week. I don't know if anybody's told you that, but I do.
Oh, thank you. So sweet.
Yeah, but I guess so. You set up a perfect transition for me, and then I fumbled the ball. Welcome to non-professional streamers. But you had mentioned to me before, or I had heard you talk about this concept of Warmachine Enlightened, right? And do you want to just explain for our listeners and our viewers what Warmachine Enlightenment looks like? I want to talk about it. I think it's a great message to boost, and it's something that fits my personal ethos very well. So,
sure. Okay. Great. So Warmachine Enlightenment is so for those who don't, I'm just gonna give a quick background on myself as a Warmachine player. So I started in Mark 1 way back in the day. Missed out Mark 2, came back for Mark 3 and Mark 4. And bought into Dusk. I started proxying Dusk as soon as they hit the app, and I saw their models, and their rack is what sold the army to me initially. Last year, Dusk was very good. the things that made them good, and this is what hurt me as a player, and is one of the reasons I actually quit the game for a year in Mark III, was when, I don't know if you guys played when it was Warmachine, which it was basically all these Riot Quest models and Archons, and everybody was playing the same stuff. No, like all the armies lost their identity, it felt like, towards the end of that edition, and it's really sad. And I could see a little bit of that with Dusk, and I'm guilty of that, where I would look at a list and 40-50% of my list was green, right? The green tag, and not the light blue Dusk color. And I think the reason for that is historically the army, identify the weaknesses, right? We don't really have long range boostable guns. We do not have reliable accuracy hitting. We have a limited quantity of attacks. So when we're going into a field, competitively speaking, on a very live scenario packet, most of the scenarios are live. We can get into that later. But it's, with as quick as the game is evolving, it's been hard to, quote unquote, catch up with the meta. So in a sea of Zadaros and Vargases and the Kythos, and what the hell is his name? And the Harusk, right? It's hard to navigate that space when you're limited in how many attacks you can get out on the field or how reliably you can hit without rerolls. We just have rerolls on that on the cute little Sire guy, who's awesome, by the way. So Warmachine Enlightenment for me, coming into Dusk House Catalyst 2025, I'll be honest, you guys, I was about to walk out the door. And I am an army loyalist. Like, when I hitch my wagon to an army, like, that's it. That's the only army I'm going to play on the main side. And I was pretty down on the army from Adepticon until probably this past Siege Invitational, where I was back in. And I felt like I was trying to make a budget version of something my army isn't traditionally meant to do. And what I mean by that is weaknesses we talked about, limited attacks, limited accuracy fixing. So for me to make a budget version of that with the models that are available, I'm not going to be as accurate as Necrofactorum. I'm not going to have as many attacks as Brian Bloods, for example. So I really had to rethink the way that I viewed the game. Competitively speaking, I'm a competitive player. I love playing this game. Steamroller, num. That's my jam. So Warmachine Enlightenment for me is, I don't care about the meta. It's changing every other week with all these model releases. So I'm just going to play what brings me joy and what's exciting to me, and tap into the unique things that Dusk has that nobody else has. So some of those strengths are undead. Like, undead's a great benefit to have in this game, you guys. Soulless helps too, except against the Infernals, but we'll get into that later. Access to magical and blessed. Like, we got a lot of it. And having easy access to turn off healing and Entropic, that's so extremely strong. And a lot of spell hate and spell aggro. So when I look at list building now, I will pick one of those strengths that's unique to the army, and I will capitalize on that and zone into that. And it's been so much more fun than me trying to play like this Moraine poopy gun line that, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't threat as far anymore. We're seeing a lot more spell hate in the game with the Primeval, for example. You're not going to be putting mortalities on those. So, yeah, that's been part of it. And the other part of it is going back and playing models that didn't get touched in January. That's also been rewarding.
If I could try and summarize, no, that's okay. If I could try and summarize what you're saying is, like, you can't get too caught up in trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah, exactly. You'll burn yourself out. You
will burn yourself out, and their internal faction balance is different than external faction balance. What I mean by that is, yeah, some people have better guns than us. Some people have better whatever. And we have different things that they don't have. Like, we don't give up souls. So we shut off a lot of stuff just sort of innately. You know what I mean? But you don't think about those strengths that we have when you're thinking about, when you're like trying to build a gun line that's as good as, say, Kane in Storm Legion.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you're trying to hit those defensive feats, like, I don't know about you, John, but out here in Duskland, it's rough where my opponent will feat and just run their entire army at to me. And it's so, I get a lot better playing into that, you guys. So I'm onto your tricks. But
yeah, especially with
frustrating.
no hit fixers and limited attacks, you're basically like the perfect victim for jamming strats.
Yep. So it's been a great mental exercise for me to navigate that space and get through it. Is it still frustrating and not fun to play? Of course, but I can lean into my extreme threat ranges. Like, I'm running a Tyrus list right now where everything in that list can threaten anywhere from 13 to 17 inches. Like, you want to jam me, I'm going to get to you first. So it's finding those little nuggets and not focusing on the bad. And to echo your point, John, if you're just trying to play catch up to try and beat these defensive skews or these jamming things in an army that typically that's a big weakness, we in the Dusk community, we have to figure out how to negotiate that obstacle, so to speak, so we're not falling victim to it.
Yeah, and there's things we can do, like defense skews. We can use Cav to help us, right? We can, we have Nastilla now with boostable sprays. They can be, I think, Rat 7 base, right? And then Shadowbind a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And then we have the Phantasm now that has the Defty buffer. That'll help. So we have a lot of tools that sort of are coming on the horizon when the models become available. One of the things I like to do into the defensive feats is I just like to counterfeit with Elith and just be like, okay, you're +1 defense. That's not so bad. I can deal with that. And then they get to come back into my defensive feat, and I find a lot of people don't like it very much. Like, I was playing Horus players this weekend, and they would say things like, "Oh, your feat is actually really unpleasant to attack into," and I'm like, "That's really interesting coming from you." We'll just put that aside for a little bit.
The arch oppressor.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And the other thing, so in preparation for WTC, so my husband and I, we had the honor to play on Team 2, Team USA. I see some of my teammates out in the chat. Hey, shout out. But if I need to rep a list over and over and over again and know that list inside and out, I better be in love with that list and I better be passionate about that list. Getting off I love Tyrus and Helith. They're my two favorite casters in the army, and Tyrus is special to me because he's the one that I kind of quote unquote unlocked the army with. My first 30 games with Dusk, no lie, I lost my first 27 28 games, and Tyrus was the caster that it just clicked one day. And I'm having so much fun playing those two casters in the way that I like to play the game. And I don't feel like I have to conform to the mandatory Merc package or, like you're saying, have to take 2 units of Cab just so I boosted attacks to get through these defensive feats.
I'm really grateful to you for sort of creating a vocabulary around this and articulating this experience so clearly, because it is a major pivot. Story time for me, WTC 2022. I'm on, Brandon's on team 1. I think I'm on like team 3 or something like that. Bunch of great guys. No Crucible Guard on there. Brandon's very much a keen student of the metagame, watching, like, he's got the personality type that goes for it. He's like, right now, Crucible Guard pair is like absolute top of the world, is metagame dominant. Like, okay, there's no CG on my team. I should probably be the one, I played against you a bunch. I should probably be the one to jump on the grenade and take on this faction this year. We're doing it, and I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I understand it's good. I understand, what makes it good, how to play it effectively, but I'm like, I hate this. I hate doing this. If we have 6 months to the WTC, I could be a pretty dang good Crucible Guard player in that time, but by the time we land in Belgium, I won't want to play this game. I would rather die.
I think it just takes away that the point of it.
Yeah.
Because you're not having fun anymore.
Right. Yeah, and I switched gears into like long heart to heart with my team and stuff. I'm just going to go back to playing the mercenaries that I really enjoy. So Gaston 2 and Osram, both in Soldiers of Fortune, which is
good casters.
yeah. They're good casters, but more importantly, I really enjoy them, and I enjoy them enough to the point where I could get studied and mastered in them. There's another thing too, and I think this really is it's almost a sort of binary of personality types. Some folks really thrive on analyzing the entire picture, the whole metagame and this into this into this, and sort of doing the big chess calculations. And then there are personality types that it's almost for the love of the game manifests in a very different way. For me, I tend to not think about the broader metagame in general, and I'm happier that way, unless I'm pressed for a topic, thinking about my teammates' matchups, or what the broader metagame looks like in a team context. Otherwise, it's just my matchups and what do I need to master and beat this, and I'm focused much more on that personal technical aspect. So I'm super grateful for this terminology and this explanation of this concept of Warmachine Enlightenment, because it is if you are not the metagame guy, this is a transformative way to conceptualize your game time experience.
I think it's also so. At the end of the day, too, when because I go into Longshanks many times during the week, and I take a look at the army breakdowns and what tournaments happen, and with being so with your finger on the pulse with the meta, I think the other thing that needs to be considered, which also helps with Warmachine Enlightenment and mental resiliency at the table, we can get into that a little bit later, but you don't know what your table's going to be when you roll up to it, right? You don't know how terrain's going to affect you or the other or the other player. Dice, this game's such a great allegory for life. You could do everything right by the book, by the meta. I've done the calculations. I did that app people have for assassinations, and it doesn't work out because you roll ones, right? Or you roll boosted fives on War Table. So for me, for me as a player, I try not to get too caught up in this is the meta, because you're going back to that meta chasing thing, right? And you don't know what random factors are going to take part in your game.
Also, if you walk the enlightened path, I will point out that there's nothing more gratifying than forging your own path and making it work for you, and finding out just how far you can take it. I mean, that's a journey worth taking, whether you get to the top of the meta or not. It's just fun. You're engaging with the game in a way, and you're playing models that you love. You're refining a list that you love or a caster that you love. That is so much fun. And like you said, sometimes it's easy to lose track of, I'm trying to achieve results. In a lot of cases, I think if you played what you loved and you invested the time into playing it, you probably could achieve equivalent results to playing whatever the soup du jour is of the month, because everybody's playing that. Everybody has a plan to play against that. And so that it becomes, it's this question of, do you want to be better at what you want to be good at, or do you want to be better at what everybody's practicing to be good at?
Yeah.
Because that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I think you see that a lot where people talk about Marine being so, she's a very strong caster, I agree. But if you look at the data, she's doing abysmally, competitively speaking. Coming off a Siege, I had a negative record with her. And I think because she's such the boogeyman, big scary caster that's out there, if you're teching against Dusk, you're teching against that caster specifically, congratulations, you just teched against 80% of the army, right? The stuff that they do. So to your credit, I love that you're on Hazaroth, because you're the only Hazaroth player around here that I know. So I love talking to you and playing with you and getting your feedback and the tech that you have. And just to be passionate about the caster or that play style.
I'm gonna unlock that guy. I'm pretty close. There you go. No, I mean,
it took me 30 games, man.
my games are getting pretty good. The only problem with Hazaroth is not getting him killed.
Yeah.
Because people soon realize they're drowning in quicksand, and they will take anything. They're just like, well, it's 20%, but I'm going to lose this game anyway. And then like he'll fall over dead.
He has some of the most abysmal stats for a 50 mil caster. It's so bad.
Yeah.
I've died a lot. My Hazaroths have died, I think, more than survived the battle.
I've got to start kill boxing myself, which is a weird thing to say.
If you're already ahead and you know you're going to win, just like, meh, you take your 2 points. We're going to keep going. You're still going to be down at 7. You're just going to lose the guys that you were putting on deck to kill me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think about it. I just have a real bad reflex, as in like, I don't want to kill box myself. It's so ingrained in me from years and years and years of playing, and I'm usually pretty good at keeping my casters alive in the middle of the table. Like, I make it hard enough where people, it looks like they can kill them, but a lot of times they find out they can't. But I'm finding that more challenging in this game because I think defenses have skewed a point higher. Like all the lines I knew from Mark II have skewed a point higher because I think average mat rat is +1. So if you were a defense 13, you were at a pretty good spot in Mark II. I think if you have to be a defense 14 to be in that equivalent spot in Mark IV.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, because there's just so much rat mat 7. It's like everywhere. You just like stumble over it. And then also everybody has carnage for no good reason.
Yeah, I don't know why that's on the rack, you guys. I'll be honest. Like, especially them cricks, they don't need it. And then that that synergy caster, I'm just like, what are we doing? But yeah, it's some of the. Yes, I agree. Carnage is like so strong to have on the rack, and Daniel Riker's in here on their battle driven. They were talking about that with some of the tournament results that we've seen over the past couple weeks. But battle driven, it's a great podcast. It's a lot.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I listen to it every week. I find it to be very listenable, and it's just it does the most important thing that content can do, which is make me think,
Yeah.
That's what I want. Is I want to be able to think about the game. That's what I engage in the content for. And they get me to think about a lot of things. And then, so it's pretty interesting. Although I'm trying to pick a fight between Alex and Daniel, because Alex says Brine Bloods are good, and Riker says not so much.
I live with Andy Bev. That's my husband. We get a lot of brines, a lot of brines in this house. They're good. Like they're a good army.
Well, it's funny you're trying to pick a fight, and I think Dan's judgment. By the way, like, I'm not going to beef with Dan. That guy's my boy. But the Brine Bloods thing, like, why I moved off of Brine Bloods and why I'm moving back on have nothing to do with the metagame. Like, I moved into Storm Legion because I got bored of playing the same 2 casters over and over again and feeling like I was self-sabotaging if I played anything else. I had my fun in Storm Legion. Now I'm looking at them like, oh man, I miss this. I want to do this again. Although I think their metagame stocks are up.
I forget who I was talking to. It was some of my teammates. One of the best things that I did when I was feeling kind of, should I jump armies? Because I don't want to be a liability on my team, right? Playing Dusk and just not doing well with them. When I've been dabbling in Old Umbre, I did look at going back to Grimkin for a minute, but jumping back to other armies made me appreciate what I had. Like, playing Old Umbre, I'm like, where is my Entropic Force? Sure, you can make Grievous Wounds on the Prime Evils, but I was missing like everything having magical weapons, easy access to Bless. Like, I felt like I was cheating, and I missed that. So it really helped me appreciate the army that I came from. Yeah.
But speaking of the team environment, that sounds like a perfect way to roll into Dragon's Fury and the Siege.
I'm so excited to hear about Dragon's Fury. I was following the pictures that were being posted on Discord, and because there were 2 events running at the same time, so I'm really excited to hear about what happened at that event.
Yeah, John, where do you want to start?
Well, how about we start with Siege, so I can recover my voice for a minute.
That's fair.
All right, Erica, take it away.
All right. So the Siege Invitational, also known as the Barbecue Brawl, for those that don't know, is hosted by our good friends over the Minority Report, Damon and Terrence, Zeke. They put on a phenomenal Iron Gauntlet qualifier. This year was at a new venue in Lebanon, Tennessee. It's about a half hour east of Nashville. So it's funny, I was like Google mapping it, and it's at some fairgrounds, and Andy and I are looking at the building. She's like, there's a reptile expo here, there's like a rabbit show, but like, where are we going for this tournament? We have a music video, not to plug the channel, but if people are curious about the event. And it was at this fairground, and it was amazing. The space was great. They had big plastic animals, like farm animals. That was furniture. So the couches were like couches. The space was great.
That just clicked in my brain.
Yeah. They had these rocking chairs. No, it was great. So Damon is very passionate about his table and terrain design, and his tables are some of the best you could play Warmachine on, and every table is thematic and different, and the armies just look so great on it. They do a great job. And then Terrence, his wife Erica, they host a barbecue for all the players, so they cook for all of us. We had 50 players, so shout out to them. And then every 5 years, they lottery off a weapon replica from the game Warmachine. So this weapon was Siege's hammer. So for the past 5 years, if you won, it's like a 60-pound warhammer. If you won, your name would go on a little plaque on the hammer, and then after the 5th year, they would lottery raffle to see who got to take it home. So congratulations, Jason Watt. He took the Siege hammer, and we have a new weapon that we get to fight over for the next 5 years. But I'll let the MR guys release that information or share that info. So to talk about the event itself, it ran 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We started off with a team event that took place Friday, Saturday morning, and then we rolled into the IG qualifier, which was Saturday, Sunday. I was on a team with my husband, Andy, and Brad Park from Team 1, Team USA, Team 1. We ran Necrofactorium, Brine Bloods, and Dusk. And we took first at that event. So it was really exciting. It was a lot of fun. I've never taken first at a big event like this before, so it was super cool. It's a big honor. Our team was Weekend at Foul Bloods. We had, for those that this movie's about to date myself, it's probably like 40 years old at this point. Weekend at Bernie's. So Brad and
I saw the podium photos.
Yeah.
They were hilarious.
So the joke came about, Brad and I are both playing undead armies, and Andy's playing the only living army. So we're like, hey, let's just do Weekend at Foul Bloods. So every time when we would roll, we had a bit. You have to stay with the bit. That's the whole purpose. Every time we would go to the table to roll off, Brad and I would drag Andy to the table. He would have his sunglasses and pretend to be dead. So we'd put the dice in his hand, and he would like ragdoll roll them. And then at the end, when we did the podium, we like dragged him up to get his trophy. So that's why the pictures look like that. And then in second place was Dan Riker's team. So congrats to them. And then third was Travis Marg's team for the team event. All the games were great. So much fun. I love the Siege. It reminds me a lot of Boker Brawl. It's that same kind of chill vibe. It's basically a 3-day Warmachine sleepover party for adults. And yeah, it's just great. No fighting, no it's just a chill event with barbecue.
Yeah, everyone knows what they're there for, and they're there for a good time and some Warmachine. So was there a particular game that stands out for you as like, wow, big lessons learned from the
where's
weekend?
Daniel Riker? I feel like he should jump on here. So Dan and I have this very interesting convention back and forth. So at Captain Con, he was on Brine Bloods, and we played twice over the course of the weekend, and I won those games. Fast forward to the Siege Invitational, Dan is on Orgoth, and he's playing Harass with that giant potato Garl gas. There we go. Dan and I played twice on the same day, the same scenario, 2 fronts, which for those that don't know is like, it is such a great scenario for Harask and the potato list. So it was a treat to play him. I love playing him. We have a lot of fun. So I got to play him first thing in the morning, and then right at the end of the day, he beat me pretty soundly in our first game into Tyrus. So Tyrus and Harass did not work. So I tried the Moraine drop, unfortunately. Didn't work out, but congrats to him. And the following day, we're both playing next to each other. So I'm playing a Necrofactorian player. He's next to me playing another Necrofactorian player. We get the scenario, I think it was Color Guard, get the dice rolls and stuff. And it was that meme with the one guy that's about to get hung, and he's like, hey, first time. So he's having a little bit of what I was going through the day before. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed all my games. It's so great to see everybody because it's like little reunions. I don't know. It's fun. I got to play Brian Meyer for the first time. He's the one that designed our Gnaw logo, which is that narwhal that we use for our online league. We never played together before, so that was a lot of fun. But yeah, 2 fronts in one day, you know? Andy doesn't even get 2 fronts in one day. So that's like, that's the kind of day it was.
Oh my God. Yeah. The reunion tour thing is so much fun. And like when you've got the events that you go to regularly, you know, the first time you're like, you know, especially if you're traveling alone or like maybe with 1 or 2 like locals, it's like, okay, what's this metagame going to be like, you know? And then you meet people, and the next time you go back, it's, hey, I remember you. We had this great game last time. You know, like you're stepping into a pool of buddies. And then if you're a repeat goer, you're like, oh my God, it's, you know, a room full of my favorite people. And, you know, after a while, it's like, oh my God, I wish this event was 3 times as long as it was. Because, you know, I haven't had nearly enough time to see everybody as much as I've wanted to.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's just, I think Warmachine is the catalyst that brings everybody together. But I think the community, and especially in coming out of the before times where the competitive scene was not as welcoming and warm and as kind of a space as it is now, it just completely feels like a 180 for that. And somebody, I think Jeff in chat, has a really great quote: give a good game over having a good game. And I think sportsmanship is, and having a clean game, good fundamentals are valued across the community right now. And it's really great to see it at that level, being shared across so many people. Like the game brings us together, you know, like I feel like if something was to happen to Warmachine, hopefully it doesn't, I think we would probably all move to something different together and keep that camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds like it was like a pretty great event. I want to just tangent for a second, if we could, about competitive play and sort of the social contract. I think that's what you basically touched on. It's surprising to hear that there was a period where competitive play wasn't seen as like welcoming, because when I left the game, that was a huge part of it. I felt like that was like ingrained into the community. Did we lose that for a while, or?
Mark 1 was a very different time. I'll say that for sure.
No. I'm talking like when I left Mark 2, early Mark 3.
I think that's where most of it came from. So I didn't play at Mark 2. I had to come out of gaming for a little bit because of work. But that's what I heard coming back to it. And it was so hard to get new people or people that were interested to try it out because the community was so not as welcoming or as kind, or they would just get like steamrolled at tables, right?
Yeah.
And their opponent would get them with a lot of gotchas. But the game was a little bit more like that in older editions. So we talk about the nasty rules like countercharge. That's just a feels bad rule, right? That kind of capitalizes on that feels bad feeling. But I think the game getting simplified also helps with some of that.
I agree. I just find it interesting that that's the perspective of people today about Mark II or Mark III, because when I was in it, I always felt like competitive players were very welcoming to new players and did a lot for them. But maybe it was different in different areas. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was more of that Mark II crowd going into Mark III. And that's where we would hear, because we really didn't get into it until Grim King came out. That's kind of what brought me back in. But
that is very interesting, and particularly the element that like resonates the most with me is the inaccessibility of the game. Because aside from like falling off a little bit in college, I've played this game consistently for 22 years. And the Mark III period, as someone who was already established in it, was very, very odd. In a lot of ways, the game was going through a dying process because it was essentially inaccessible. Like the SKU count made it so that nobody wanted to stock it. Buying into the game was very difficult and complicated. You essentially needed an expert to hold your hand. Otherwise, you would go in, make a lot of early purchases, waste a lot of money, and then feel bad about it. And then, exactly like you described, sort of the feels bad experiences, the gotchas, all that was really prevalent because in addition to having like 2,000 plus SKUs, you had 2,000 plus mechanical interactions that you needed to know.
Yeah. Get the flow chart ready, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the game was just so hard to get into. And if you were looking at like moving from playing on the kitchen table with a few of your friends to playing in a steamroller, things like pre-measuring made certain aspects of the learning curve easier, but like, I don't think there was a harder time to try and break in Warmachine's history, especially because the media environment had also fallen apart and like as a means of passing on all this knowledge and so forth. As a competitive player at the time, I was actually really desperate for new blood, and it's interesting hearing what you had to say about it because it's like, oh yeah, I can very much see how the perspective, like. It's almost like like the Sistine Chapel in like Michelangelo's work, like God and Adam reaching out for each other. Like we're just not connecting here. We really want to, but we just aren't.
Yeah, and towards the end of Mark III too, I don't think it helped. Like I can understand from a business perspective with the Riot Quest stuff because it's like. The only people that were buying Riot Quest models were people that wanted them to play Warmachine because no one was buying into the Riot Quest. And for me, I have played Riot Quest. Thomas at Warfare Weekend was my first time playing. He's got this awesome arena thing. It's a fun game, but because I felt burned, this is going to sound so stupid and petty. I felt burned about 2019. I was just like, I don't want to play this game because this game ruined my game, Just probably a juvenile way to think about it, but at the time, that's how I was feeling. But I don't think that helped because a lot of these models had these outrageous rules too, paragraphs of BS that they would do on the table that wasn't healthy for the game.
In many cases, they felt very much like Mark I models.
Yes, yes.
And not in the good way that Mark IV feels like early Mark I, like in the incorporeal changes every time it's printed, and like Mullet Karn has a light novel that describes how his damage bonuses work.
Yeah. That's actually a great comparison. I didn't think about that, but yeah. But
yeah,
I'm glad that the community has evolved and moved past that. And I think, so Nova, I'm going to plug it. So for those that don't know, Andy and I, we helped TO the events, Warmachine events at Nova Open. Takes place Washington, D.C. over Labor Day weekend. And my first Nova, one of the things that, and this was during Mark III, that really stuck with me is there wasn't really anything alternative other than those steamrollers or the IG for players to play into. So if you were a new player, a returning player, and you wanted to go to a con, that was the only event that you could play in. And we would see a lot of these new or returning players just getting absolutely demolished at the table. And they don't want to play after that. Like, that's not a fun experience. So I like that we have a narrative packet, the Black Tide campaign, or Brawl Machine. I advocate for that. I love Brawl Machine. They're great. They're great scenarios. They're a lot of fun. So I like that there's focus going into that as well as into the tournament match play, I think is what they referred to it as at Adepticon.
Yeah. Give new players or players who are still on their way up a variety of opportunities to experience the game and not just like, getting your teeth punched in and lunch money stolen, but like actually experiment around. It's funny because I'm like listening to you speak and I'm like, you're essentially like Oracle of Delphi reading my mind for the points I wanted to touch in my Dragon's Fury experience. Brawl Machine in particular is fantastic because it feels like a very different game from a game of Warmachine because of the small scale. It's also like, when that format was first created, it was a really, really remarkable tool because it was the first time you had a game environment that would actually let you simulate what endgame in a full-size tournament game feels like.
Yes, that's what I love about it. Sorry, not to cut you off really quick, but just because I think that's a key thing that I tell people too. Like, I love 100-point Steamroller. I learned so much from playing Brawl Machine because it gets me to that mid-endgame point quicker.
Yeah, you're essentially playing a game of Warmachine from like turn 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
And the game dynamic looks much more like that. It's great practice for veterans too. Like there's huge value for both like aspiring and longtime players because it gives you an insight into the rarest stage of the game and how to make decisions appropriately in a very different board dynamic than mostly full armies.
Yeah, chef's kiss. Mwah. That's yes, beautiful, Alex. I 100% agree with you on that.
I'm so thankful for both of you right now.
I'm so bad, John. Are you okay?
My voice is dead, but I'm doing.
Let us know when you want to cut. We can always index.
No. The show must go on. So I made it last week. I'll make it this week. All right,
let's go into Dragon's Fury.
Yeah, I want to hear about it.
All right. Yeah. So Dragon's Fury is an event that happens in Beaverton, Oregon every year. So Beaverton, one of the suburbs of Portland. It has been hosted at Gongai Games, which is a fantastic little space out there. They have wonderful storefront. And then in the back, this big fat warehouse space filled with tables. So the event is organized by JC Cervantes, and then we had venerable Chad Laubacher judging the event. So Chad's an old head and a longtime team tournament judge. Event was fantastic. Show up, have a fantastic time. Very well organized, very smooth. Aside from like maybe. The round timers to get started every round were aggressive. So you needed to hit that table and like, damn the pleasantries. We're setting up scenario and we're racking spells.
Nice.
So move fast. But yeah, I had a fantastic time. How about you, John?
I had a pretty good time, except for I thought I would feel better as the day went on, and it just got worse. and then it got worse on day 2. But I had such great company, and we had such great meals. And I think I enjoyed the Warmachine. I got to play Harusk 3 times, which was pretty cool. I feel very comfortable in that matchup. It's a matchup I can play with either of my lists. There is something that I want to talk about that I think may be a hole in my game, or maybe I'm just being skewed by bad dice. But I lost 2 of the 3 Harusk games to a scenario and where I failed to clear 4 models on Harusk's feat turn. And on one of them, it was on Lilith's feat turn. And I needed 3s to hit. I kid you not, I rolled 6 double 1s. We counted them. And it was brutal. And I couldn't, he just got ahead on scenario because I couldn't clear to score my side, so to speak, right? And then in the other game, there was 3 Axers and 1 Keeper. The big boy with the shield, he's got 14 wounds. Well, he had taken a bunch of damage. He only had 5 or 6 wounds on that guy. And I walked Invictus into combat, threshered all 4 of them, bought 3 attacks, killed no models, charged with Slayers, killed 1 model, and then charged with Cats, killed 2 more models, leaving the 4th model. So I put an exorbitant amount of stuff into them, but I just had not good dice, which can happen, I guess. But so what I'm wondering is, do I need to take from that lesson that I should be more aggressive? Well, it didn't help both those games. I went second, so I was kind of on my back foot a little bit as it was.
This is what were your casters you're running? You're running Hazaroth and Helith?
Yeah.
Yep. H to H, okay.
Go
ahead.
I lost with each. But the game that I won a game with Hazaroth against Horus too.
Nice.
The games were good, and they were games where if I clear those things off, I don't lose. The game continues, and if the game continues, I eventually win because I was way ahead on attrition in both games. So
a little piece of enlightenment that I got for playing Dusk into some of these, like the Vargas and the Harusk. Might not be able to kill their stuff, but you know what our army has? We got a lot of beatback. We got a lot of beatback weapons. We got beatback shields. You just push them off the point and stop them from contesting. You don't got to kill them. They're hard to kill. But we can control them through the utility that's unique to our army.
That is something I may have to think about building into some of my lists.
The Spectre's great. Like, I know you love the Hazaroth. I highly recommend looking at Spectres. They're great little roadblocks, and their shields have 1v games by just pushing people back off of objectives.
Yeah,
so you played the same Harusk player twice in the event. I think running Harusk both times, and
yep.
I caught parts of your first game, and it was kind of incredible to watch because it was like what I saw was like textbook execution on Hazaroth. And one of the textbook pieces was that little Spectre just sitting there with a 50 mil, like, I got this. Don't worry about it.
I love that, Jack. I love that, Jack.
It was pretty awesome. No, that game really went well for me. Actually, it was really interesting. I'm going to have Nick on the show to talk about our games because we played 2.
Oh, good.
And he played so differently in the second game. He learned so much. I was so impressed about how much he learned about how to play into Hazaroth. Because in the first game, I was absolutely steamrolling him on attrition. As a matter of fact, at the bottom of 3, I didn't have a single point of damage and had not lost a single model.
Nice.
And I had killed, I don't know, probably 10 medium base infantry and a light jack or something. Like, I was way ahead. And I eventually won that game. In the second game he played so much cagier and so much more careful. Now, I think if I had cleared those 4 models that I needed to clear, then I probably am fine in that game. Like, I'm a little behind on scenario, but we played equilibrium. I eventually get ahead on attrition and then win the game. But I had that happen in 2 games against Harusk in a row where I failed to clear the last model and then I lost on scenario.
Yeah, it's hard with us, like we were talking a little bit earlier, with a lot of these live scenarios when we're playing an army that doesn't have a lot of quantity of attacks. Like we can hit hard all day long, but you have to actually hit. And under Harass Feet, you got a bunch of tough, no knockdown.
Yep.
But it's being able to recognize that, and because your opponents are going to capitalize on that because they know that's something that you're weak on. But it's good to recognize that. That way you can play out of it.
Yeah, I've got to figure out a way though to maybe play in a little more of an aggressive on the flanks, so that I don't have to, like, because a lot of times I'll cede their side of the board for a turn or two. You know what I mean? Without overcommitting. But maybe I just need to be more aggressive and commit sooner there and give some pieces away. Not be so reticent to give things away. I'm not sure. I have to think about it some more, but it really was interesting because, like I said, I lost 2 games in a row against Rusk under exactly the same circumstances where I just failed to clear something that I felt very confident that I was going to clear.
Right.
And it just didn't happen both times. I still can't believe I rolled 6 double ones. It seems impossible. It seems impossible on a turn to roll 6 double ones, but I did it.
As long as you keep going and like tilting at the table, like that's why I talk about mental resiliency. War Table is a great tool. I love playing with the community on there. I love trying stuff on there. I'm gonna tell you what, that War Table has been great for my mental resiliency at the table, because I can't tell you how many boosted 5s I've rolled on that damn thing. So when it happens in real life, you're like, all right, cool story. Let's move on. Like, it's not your day, and it's been easier to bounce back and not fall into that tunnel of that was supposed to work, like that can't not work, you know.
One thing that's helped me
low key actual random number generators are actually very, very difficult to do in programming. Like if you think of a random number generator function, it's probably going off of something that's not random but like very, very bizarre, like, you know, particular RAM circuit activation. True randomness is almost impossible, and War Table dice are far, far less than imperfect true random. Yeah, you're either rolling like boosted 15s or you're boosted 5s. There's like not a lot of in between, but it's fun. Shout out, I love War Table, and I thank the team that works on that and updates that. They've been really quick, and we appreciate it. Well, you also just gave me another Delphi moment because you know, but there's 2 things, John. You know, the 6 double ones game is unbelievably frustrating. My last Mark III game was actually that against Terrence, round 1 of the Invitational. I have this like Osram versus what's his name, Lucas. My turn 2, we're going to go to 4-0. You know, I'm hitting 4s and 5s all day long, slamming models, killing easy targets. Nothing works. Instead, the turn ends. I go 0. He goes up by 1. I'm like, how could I have planned that game better? Like, how could I have played better? And like, the only other alternative is suppose that literally everything fails and I just run a contest. But like, the on the table math is you go up 4-0 and then win on the next turn. They're like, well, there's nothing you can do about that. So I believe it happens. Boy, is it not fun when it does.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, the mental resilience thing, one of my games involves dice failures. They're not as bad as what John just experienced there.
That's really rough.
But I handle it way worse.
I actually don't get that tilted by dice. I used to. It's something I had to work on for a long time. And what I finally came to is I don't really care about the outcome of the game. What I care about is the actions that I took in the game. Did I take the right action with the information that I had? Sometimes it doesn't work out. But if I'm playing a really good game, I'm very happy with myself. You know, is that Andy?
It is. Andy, you want to come say hi?
Say hi,
Andy.
Andy
just got home from game night. I have to do boring work stuff. Do you want to come say hi? All right, he'll be in. I'll be in a minute. He just got home.
That's awesome. But yeah, I don't get so hung up on outcomes as much as the process. I really focus on the process. I'm really like, how can I play this better? Just like, how can I play around having horrific dice failures? And it just happened in back-to-back games against the same caster, and I lost it exactly the same way. And I'm just like, is the universe trying to tell me something? Like, is there a message that I'm not receiving? Or do I just need to burn these dice? Maybe it's the dice. So,
yeah. I think coachability is important, and being able to be open to feedback, both positive and negative, is super important. Also, this is applicable for my everyday life too. Whenever I come to the table, I always like to approach the table with humility, regardless of who I'm playing against. A brand new player, a seasoned player, I'm going to walk away and learn something. That's why I get so excited when I get to play against like a Shadow Flameshare, because we don't really have a local, like a consistent local that we get to play against, or Winter Core. Like, I'm so excited when I get to play into Winter Core. But I think that kind of helps too with the mindset going into it. Is just to be open and try and learn something every single time you play, regardless of the game, a brawl machine, a demo game. Always walk away with something.
That's good advice.
Absolutely.
Continuing to talk about our games, the other thing I learned was that I probably should ask more questions about other people's rules. I lost a game in round 1 where somebody cheated unintentionally pretty badly.
Oh, no.
To assassinate Hazaroth. I mean, I didn't care that much. They offered to go have the result changed, but I was like, it's okay. It's like, it's kind of done. I don't want to like upset the tournament. I didn't care that much, but they had, those stupid glory hunting assassins in Shadow Flame Shard.
The Shades?
Yeah.
Shades,
yeah.
Yep.
She charged with them and then placed 2 outside of combat and took shots at my caster, and that's what eventually killed me.
Oh, gotcha.
On top of everything else, right? And she would have had to complete her charge. And we even asked the question, can you do that? And she's like, yeah, I believe so. And I said, okay, cool. I guess I die. And apparently you couldn't do that. So that's good to know. But,
I think one of the things that some really good advice that was given to me is some of the questions I always ask before I start a game. Like, you have a round timer, right? And you don't want to have to barrage your opponent with questions. Share codes are great, right? I'm guilty of not using it as much as I should, but I should. A couple great questions to ask if I'm playing against an army not familiar, especially if it's legacy. I don't know what any of that stuff does. So I want to know, hey, what's your feat? What are your threat extensions? And does anything happen if I shoot that? Like, before I shoot anything, I always ask, what happens when I shoot that model? Oh, that guy has stealth. Great. Or that guy has sack pawn. Great. Or shield guard, right? So those are always questions I like to ask, because I've been caught where I've committed to a move and it's like, oh, you can't do that because he's stealth, or he has sack pawn or shield guard.
Can I just rant for just a really quick second? Just like a quick second.
Yeah, of course.
Why is the ability called evasive? You hit the model. They didn't evade anything. And then they walked away.
Good.
Yeah, I know.
But low-key good, you guys.
Why is it called evasive? It makes no sense. And the rule is also very frustrating. But just wanted to rant for a second.
Yeah. Did you want to come on in? Oh. Do you want to come on this one? We can just swap. It's a question for Andy. What's the best way? Should we just hot swap seats, or
I can he can use the link that I sent you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
whatever you guys prefer.
I will send him the link.
Yep.
Do you guys have like separate offices, or are we gonna get like?
No, he's right behind me.
Okay.
We play in the same room.
I'm actually really excited that Andy's going to jump on too, because I'd like to hear about some of his games as well at Siege.
I am too. I have not seen him all day, so I'm very excited to hang out with him too.
Alex, were there any games you wanted to talk about, maybe where you learned something?
I have. I have 2 to highlight, and they're both losses. Let me pull up the event just so I get it right. The first one I want to talk about, and this is sort of germane to the Brawl Machine thing, is my game against Kevin from Canada, like British Columbia, not Montreal, that's the other coast, Vancouver type area. Kevin drove down, and he was my round 1 opponent on day 1 in the Solo Masters. He wound up coming in second, fighting Brandon Owens in the finals.
Oh.
Round 1 was a Storm Legion mirror matchup. So we got... I was running Kane Wolf. He was running Calder and Sparkhammer. I was a little fearful of the Sparkhammer matchup for Wolf. So I opted for Kane, figuring I could handle it. It came down Kane Calder. So I'm running Kane, 4 Coursers, Deuce, and a bunch of other things that have electrical type attacks. And he's running Maelstrom, Double Cav, and bunch of miscellaneous warriors. This is a very interesting game because essentially Kane's core battle group doesn't do much. They essentially transform into bait for the rest of my army to fight his army effectively. And it turns into this really interesting tactical game because also in the way my army is structured, I essentially can't touch his Colossal. I just have to let that thing live all game and sort of play around it. So we move into this very tactical game, and because it's tactical, because it's a lot of unsupported rolls, it's a game where dice are super important and impactful, and the randomness and variation is mostly in what pockets of the board empty out very, very quickly and which ones empty out slowly. So you're essentially rolling a die for every trooper model that you have and say, does this one live or die? And then playing from there. It came down to late game dynamics where we were very, very, very close on points. Like every now and again, we had the ability to steal something from one another. And I made a bad call because Kane's living in a bunker, like hanging out near this one building that he's playing peekaboo with the Colossal from. I'm worried that he's going to sneak some turn 7 points that I need to be able to compensate for, and move Kane out of hiding into certain death of being punched to death by the Colossal. Turns out it was the wrong call because Kevin needs to roll dice at making top of 7 points. He almost doesn't need to roll to punch Kane to death. And those top of 7 dice, he needs to do in 47 seconds. So there's a lesson there in like, oh yeah, I should probably be playing some more Brawl, or I should be thinking a little bit more carefully about these late game scenarios and more deliberatively, because it was a situation where I made the wrong call. So it was interesting, like getting that sort of high resolution contact with a phase of the game you almost never see, and doing it in this very bizarre and interesting matchup context that is Storm Legion versus Storm Legion.
It looks like I've added Andy to the stream, but he doesn't have a camera currently.
I do not have a camera currently because Erica has the camera.
Oh, I see. Okay, very cool. So we can hear you just fine. That's awesome. Can you hear us okay?
Yep. Hello.
Well, welcome to the
Andy.
stream.
Good to hear from you again.
We're so excited to have you.
I will be the disembodied voice today.
No, that's totally cool. Actually, I should probably be the disembodied voice. I have a face for radio for sure. But
we play Warmachine, don't we all?
Yes, we do.
Except my lovely wife. Sorry, lady.
So sweet. You guys are like the power couple in Warmachine, and I'm here for it. I love it.
We, as a married couple, we don't argue at all, except when we play Warmachine. It's the only time we fight.
I've had dice imprinted into my skin.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm gonna set the record straight with this dice story. I did not throw dice at him to hit him. I tossed dice
in
firmly,
anger, in frustration.
In frustration, not anger. We're not angry because that's not enlightened.
In
my
frustration,
and they bounced on the table and happened to hit him.
Sounds to me like Andy should have moved out of the way.
Thank you, Jod.
I gotta support my fellow Dusk players. So Andy, you got back from Siege, right? And you guys did very well there. And Erica gave us a pretty cool report on the team tournament. Was there any like memorable games that you wanted to share, like some lessons learned? One of the things I find is really helpful for newer players is to kind of hear what we think about when we lose games or when we have close games or when we think about things that we could have done better and like some in the minutia in playing good Warmachine. I think it's kind of an interesting thought process to explore.
Oh, definitely. One of my first games was into Tiger, and we played a Ragemonger on Ragemonger mirror match, which was really funny. Just everything explodes immediately. Just everything just dies. The one I would probably want to focus on for myself is the Shearus Trike matchup for me. Is generally really, really bad. As an army that's entirely living and has no way of removing upkeeps really from the Trike, I can't really kill it. And Chimera players are figuring that out, and playing it overly aggressively. If I am playing a sort of a grinded outcaster like Boomy or Foulblood, I think that that game plan kind of falls on its face really fast, where the game just slips away from me because the Colossal just sits there in the middle of the board and does a ton of work every turn, and I can't finish it. Mm-hmm. So I need to play somebody that's going to try and kill Shearus eventually. I think is the end goal. So I need to figure out who that is if I'm playing into Chimera and see Trikes.
That's interesting that you say that, because it kind of echoes one of my games over the weekend where my opponent forced the Trike issue and forced me to kill it. But Colossals have taken on kind of a new aspect in Mark IV that you didn't really see in Mark III or Mark II, which is like, okay, first best strategy, kill them efficiently and quickly. But not necessarily like because armor skew has relatively gone down, and therefore like the sheer volume of hitting power you need to develop has also gone down. Not necessarily all armies are equipped to do that like they used to. So second best strategy in many cases is just ignore them, just play like they don't exist and mitigate them. And what's interesting, particularly with the Trike, because it ranges on the expensive side, like maybe up there with the Mastodon or the Maelstrom, for new army Colossals, is it starts to introduce army composition problems, especially in Chimera. Because Chimera only has options for heavies, and they're taking like a support Vipex and, something else like the real business guy. And then they're taking a Trike on top of that. And like, okay, I got to figure out units, and I got to figure out like, which solos am I cutting down to the bone on? And when you get right down to it, actually, if you can mitigate and like sort of refuse that Trike a meaningful engagement or meaningful fight, you don't actually have to kill that many guys. Like if you reduce the army to like Shearus, Shadowmancers, and Trike, you'll win on scenario really easily because that army is very small and very easy to tear apart.
I totally agree. My biggest
Orgoth
problem
players have the same problem with Garlgas too many times.
Mm-hmm. My biggest problem with the Trike is the last couple times I played it on payload, and I can't win on scenario.
Sure.
It just sits between the 40s, and I'm just like, all right, well, you get to sit here in my face, and I can't do much about it. And that's scenario dependent, right? If it's a much more live scenario, I totally agree with your strategy there, where you just do your best to ignore it, gum it up as best you can, and focus elsewhere and win on scenario, because they can't touch a ton of the table because they're limited on model count.
Yeah, there's two strongly center justified scenarios. It's payload and wolves that are heals, and those are the ones that are really hard to do it on. At least in my experience.
I did hear Eric talking about it from Eric, who was our teammate, who plays SFS, talking about it from the other side of the table. And he played against a Brindblood player who played 3 really hard to remove heavies. And I'm sorry, I can't give you details about it. We could look up his list. But what he specifically said is, I really couldn't chew through them. Like
With
they
a
were
Ike?
just. That's what he said.
Oh yeah, this was Ike versus Jono. It's funny you said Eric, and I'm like, who?
Yeah,
Eric Eicherman. Everyone on the West Coast calls him Ike or Dick Doctor. Yeah, that was Eric Eicherman versus Jono, who used to be one of my locals in the San Francisco Bay Area. Super happy, by the way, to see Jono come out for the event.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He was on the team that we faced on the top tables. And Jono's a great guy. But I'm looking up the list now.
I'm assuming it's a Ragemonger and a couple of heavies. Leaning into fortify and unyielding.
Sounds right.
There was 3 heavies, and they were like the old one. I don't know, some other
Chum, and then Spearback.
See, I'm of the opinion I don't I take 16-point dire trolls instead of either character heavy.
I totally understand
their character heavies. Unfortunately,
no,
that's exactly the list, by the way.
I was just giving you perspective from Ike, who was literally saying I was in a bit of a pickle and I really had to kind of play my tail off to win that game because I couldn't deal with the amount of beef that was there. And I just thought it was interesting to hear how it's kind of a dichotomy to hear you talk and hear I talk from 2 sides of a similar matchup, because I think he was playing Shyrus with a trike, I'm pretty sure, in that matchup. So
Kirax versus Bragan, but still pretty similar.
Yeah,
Kyrax is the other one that can kind of run a trike because he gives him Alpha Hunter, right? So you stack Alpha Hunter with Hunter's Mark, and all of a sudden that trike just slings across the board.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, just food for thought. But yeah, that's interesting. I have to admit, Blind Bloods is the faction that confuses me the most.
We are an esoteric faction, that's for sure.
The way I always describe it is Talion Charter with troll stats and Scorn War Beasts.
I just can't look at anything and tell what it does. I just like
if you look at the card, you have no idea what it does. That is true. If you look at the stats on any of the cards, they are not what they are.
Exactly.
Everything at range. I have Force Barrier. I have all kinds of offensive buffs with Gang and Stir the Blood and Fury Strength and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, when an opponent asks you what's your mat and POW on that warrior unit, and you're like, I don't know, I get to pick a number and it's that.
Yeah. Well, it starts at 611, but it could be like Mat 11 power 17. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, and you don't even have to work hard for that either. It just happens.
You're spending points for it though, and rack slots, but yeah.
He will be playing a game together, and he has his like frog. He's got his gang. He's got like the flare. He's got just everything. He's like, "What do I have to roll to hit you?" I was like, "Just roll the dice. Did you roll 2 1s? You hit me. Like you're at 12. What do you want me to do?"
That frog is the best model of my faction. I'm not.
Oh, it's even so good.
That frog is insane. I love the frog.
Yeah, for 12 points, it's such a bargain. And you're like, oh yeah, it's a Def 13 impervious flesh model that leaps. It must not hit hard. Like, well, it's Fury 3, but its fists are POW 17 and it can self-animus up to 19, so...
Yeah, and if you really want to attack like a real heavy, you can just rage it, and then you just spend that one to do that.
It basically makes the same number of attacks at the same power as an unbuffed general. Like, that's worth noting. Like, even if it has to self-animus, it's about as dangerous to your heavies as the general.
Yeah, it's sexy.
Like,
I can count on... I can't count how many times people are like, but paralyzing gaze only affects living. I'm like, no. Everything.
No, it's everything.
Everything.
Like all good Warmachine models, it has like 2 rules too many. You know, it's not just one over the edge. All the like really, really OP models, they just have like 2 extra rules for no reason. You're just like,
John,
wait.
it's only got like 3 rules.
Yeah, it's really not. When we're talking rule count, like it's not. That one's not. Have you seen Gravediggers lately? Their jacks have like 27 rules.
Yeah, I'm not even exaggerating. I just pulled the card. It has literally 3 rules: impervious flesh, paralyzing gaze, vault. That's it.
All great rules though.
Yes.
One thing I want to just put in for the Brine Bloods, the fire warrior cadre, I think is my favorite cadre. Like out of all of them that have come out, when it comes to terms of like with flavor.
Oh, the aesthetics on it.
Oh yeah,
they're
incredible.
just dripping with like. Actually, I thought Brine Blood is just not good. Even Foulblood and his drunk merry crew, like those models are just.
Yeah, I was gushing to the SFG guys at
flavor.
Adepticon too, where I'm just like, look, you like the flavor of showing the story of like these guys want to look official so hard because so they have all like the red coats and everything on them, but they're just idiots. Like is very apparent. So it's a really cool story they tell with the models, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's like Sharps rifles, but instead they're Blunts rifles.
Yeah, and I've had so many people, so many players that I've talked to, or even in our community, that the cadre is what sold them on the army. They're like, Brine Blood's whatever, but the frogs are super cute. Or Foulblood just looks awesome. Chum looks amazing. He's got a cute little tail.
I wish I had more opportunity to play the Toad Licker guy, the Fugue Walker.
Yeah.
Both rules and flavor. That's one of my favorite models in the faction, and it's so hard to justify those 4 points, even though he's incredibly good.
He's very good, but there's so many 4-point models you really want to take in Brines. Like we have a glut of 4-point solos that are all very good.
Yep.
You could probably start by taking the pig boarding party out of your lists.
No,
that's a good start.
No, get out of here with your anti-troll propaganda, John. Any Brine Blood players, do not do that thing.
I'm trying to help.
Yeah, pig boarding party for 6 points are they print money. They're excellent.
They are quite excellent.
But yeah, from a 4-point solo perspective, like Harger's great. He's also our only stealth out. Then you have Malgabaza, who I have come around on. I had a lot of Malga hate for a while. I still don't think she's really
I thought she was awful until I realized like 6 months later that she has AD, and I'm like, this model's so slow. She never gets to
Meemaw is awesome.
Yes, Meemaw is
like,
very
oh
good.
my god, she has AD. Like all of her movement problems are solved.
Like she doesn't do anything all game. She's not really worth like 4 points of work, but she's very good just to give like something that's really high armor in like a Ragemonger list or something like that to just leave, and you give that option where you cannot solo this with a heavy or a colossal. It's just going to go away.
Or if you're running Shadow Tongue heavy battle group, you're leveraging your perdition threat, and that means you're often leading a heavy that's like technically in range if your opponent gets all the bells and whistles to like just match your threat range.
You suddenly give it enliven and not make it worth it. Right,
exactly. Magabaza lets you get ridiculously aggressive with your lead war beast. And you know, Shadow Tongue has this pattern where if he's running a passel of heavies, he essentially hollows out the center of the board. Like no models are playing in a 24-inch circle around the center for the first few turns because it's simply not safe to stand there. And what Magabaza does in that situation is actually let you take one lead war beast, and you have to do your mitigation for things like knockdown and stuff like that. Great if you're a lead heavy as a crabnet heavy, and let you project that circle forward and turn it into like more a massive oval where it's like, yeah, it's 24 inches edge to edge where you can't set foot here, but actually it's like 24 by 30 going toward your deployment zone.
John knows about the crabnets now. He knows.
Yes.
Yeah, I did learn. That was
those crabnets are sexy.
that was a good learning lesson. I'm looking forward to getting another game with you, Andy, at some point because I learned so much in that first game. Yeah.
Hell yeah. I really didn't like the crabnets originally, but I think Enliven and the release of Foulblood really makes them work because them being range 8 is like really kind of mediocre, but it lets them kind of take a shot and not auto die from being in range of stuff to shoot at as long as they don't get surrounded.
Yeah. Well, the incredible thing about the crabnets is like auto knockdown, especially if you don't have to hit the thing that you're like trying to knock down, is in many cases just a straight up game winner. I like, you know, I ran crabnets beforehand, and the way I ran them was like it can definitely be the point guy and Shadow Tongue or similar lists now. But the way I ran it is like this jerk with the crab net is sort of just like slinking back and forth in like the mid to back line. And he's just waiting for an opportunity. Like, oh, you done goofed on your positioning. Here we go.
I know. I felt so bad. I was playing into a Kythos list. So he had feeded everything's defensive billion. And I'm trying to map out an assassination play with him, with Ragemonger, with some dice fixing. And I'm not even considering knocking Kythos down. But I bring the Brig up, and I have the Brig take the big shot, just to do an auto power 10 on a Mechanothrall to clear a spot for Ragemonger to stand and stab Kythos a bunch of times.
Oh, that Thrall toughs out, doesn't he?
No, I boxcars to hit by accident, and it hits another couple Thralls, and one of the Thralls toughs. And I'm like, well, that's a knockdown beacon for my crab net now. I guess Kythos is going to be on the ground for this entire assassination run.
Beautiful.
I mean, as an aside, that's the reason why I want to play Baronova, is I want to play with Arc Nodes and Tempest. Another AoE knockdown. Because AoE knockdowns are just so good.
Oh, the terrifying thing is Saverin with Tempest. Because he just kill orders a unit and then he erases that unit from existence.
I like that too. Yeah.
Yep. Well, you get to relive the Sorsha 1 dream that never was, which is arcing, freezing grips, and tempests.
You didn't have to do that though. You just feeded.
It's true.
You cyclone and feeded. Why do you need an arc node? Sorsha 1 was like the one counter caster who never needed an arc node. She's just like, I'll cyclone over here. Or was it Cyclone? I think it was Cyclone, right?
Windrush.
Windrush. It was Windrush. That's correct. I'll just Windrush over here and do whatever I want.
Yeah, you see to like Def 17 or Def 20 or something like that back in the day. It was insane.
Yeah, Def 16 base, Windrush up to 18, Fog of War to 20.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. But yeah, I think I'm going to bounce off that Kythos cue to sort of describe my last game and just close the circle on handling dice poorly. So this was during the team tournament. In round 2, we're playing against Team Lail was an inside job. And I'm playing against my old buddy Sean Hopkins from up in Bellevue, Washington.
Who's awesome.
Yeah. Sean is, one of my longtime oldest friends in this game. And Sean and I have had a history of great games. I became immensely frustrated in this game. So it was Kane versus Kythos.
He's off Menoth now. Okay.
Yep. And the scenario was best laid plans. So we wind up having, there's a big obstruction near the 40s that Sean sort of makes a soft commit to. Like most of his force is over there, but he can reposition if needed. He's very light on the caches, which is a smart move. I'm also very light on the caches. We roll it up. The center objectives go away. So now it's 2 points over here on, this far flank, and the majority of the points on the other side that Sean's, set himself up to have a heavy commit to. I've sort of put most of my forces in the center. So we're having this interesting back and forth game where we're skirmishing, and then battle gets joined when he starts jamming with Criterions under his feet. There's a back and forth, and I sort of treat the defensive feat like, okay, it's a time walk. I'm going to do action in the sections that I can, and I'm mostly non-threatened if, I don't let your jam advance into me, so we're going to do that. Move past the time walk, come into the next turn. We're tacking slightly even. Sean's leading by 1. I have the opportunity to clear his jamming criterions, clear his scoring criterions on the 40, and do some other stuff, develop position, get rid of models that are in my face, and free up my models to move as we move into the late game. Big operative roll of the turn. We do some warm-up damage. We knock a Criterion down on a tough check. Kane's like, knock down Criterion. I'm just going to naked cast a Calamity at him. Snake Eyes. okay, this has now turned into a disaster. Because Kane doesn't have the focus to do it again with the upkeeps I was committed to.
And now that Criterion is now somewhere else.
No, this was post feat turn. We waited that guy out.
Yeah, gotcha.
This is a thing that happens sometimes because you often want to play where, your attacks and your use of resources aren't necessarily hard committed to something. And like, oh yeah, if I just hard cast the Calamity, I can put the gunshots somewhere else because I'm going to clean that guy up anyways, and blah, 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 blah. I got too clever for myself by half. Just doing the dice math, it's like, your failure point is rolling double ones. You never want to count on double ones, but you also don't want to count on not getting double ones on when this is one of the essential things that needs to happen in the turn. I got too greedy and it should have just been like, you know what? You got 3 attempts to hit this with not double ones. Let's go which mark. Oh, okay. We got you on the first one or the second one. Now the Calamity sticks. Incidentally, Kane snake-eyed his next pistol shot anyways, but like I got mentally got by this. Like, 1, I had screwed up, and then 2, the dice had punished me for taking a suboptimal course, and I got a little bit in my head about it, went on tilt, did a good job managing, but like I still didn't, readjust properly, because the thing was like that Criterion survived an unreasonable number of attacks. Most of the attacks that I put into him net healed him. It was a rough turn on dice. But essentially the one thing happened, my eyes got red. And while I recovered I recovered pretty good, I didn't recover well enough to actually correct the failure. Because the correct option would have been walk away from the table for 30 to 40 seconds and think about it. I was saving my feet to kill heavies. Actually, I should have just recalibrated, used my feet, and killed the things that needed to die. Because if this turn comes off the way it lives in my head, instead of tailing Sean by 1, which I did for almost the whole game, I'm up by 2 and can probably sustain that lead. I had compounding dice failures on top of that later in the turn, which is just sort of deepened the tilt, but
should we tell them how Brandon didn't help you?
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. I'm trying to recover this game, and like I said, I'm doing good on recover. I'm doing good on recovering from the tilt, but not necessarily like perfectly. And then I'm going into my turn 7, like, okay, this is the one where like I just need to tie it up or pull ahead on army points destroyed or something. And I'm like making the plan, got like 2-ish minutes left. Brandon comes by and goes, "We're 2-2, buddy. We're all counting on you." And I'm like, F me. I'm genuinely mad now. Like I was keeping the boat together just barely, and like that pushed me over the edge. So, I screwed up the models I needed to contest. I screwed up my order of activation, and just like
we had already won. We had already won at that point.
No, yeah, he was straight up trolling me. And I was like, emotional black hole, like, okay, I need to go outside right now and be alone. I had to have like chain smoke a couple of cigarettes and come in and apologize to Sean for how tilted I was during that game. It was, you talk about mental resiliency, and it's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this and like looking for where I lost my equilibrium, and where my mental because if you've dealt with tilt before, you often build like a routine or a mental fortress that you can retreat into to recover. And it was interesting for me to observe, as somebody with a very good mental fortress, where it failed and why it failed.
What did you learn?
I learned to blame myself properly, actually. Just greedy sequences and being far too clever by half versus, just doing what wins. I was trying to have my cake and eat it in too many regards, and that's a habit I've built for myself that I need to break very quickly.
I think something that helps too with target prioritization, especially in this edition and scenario packet, is Warmachine Mark IV, I could call it Warmachine now, really rewards good fundamentals. What I find is at the end of the day, if I just focus on scenario versus like I have to kill that guy and that's my priority, and I'm able to reprioritize that being the scenario and just really focus down, getting back to basics, has been very beneficial in this edition of the game. More so than previous, I feel like.
You know what's funny? I think I've articulated exactly what it is. I think you're right. And I think I've articulated for myself what built the habit of, trying to have my cake and eat it too, is because I spent essentially the last year and a half or so getting to have my cake and eat it all the time. As I'm playing like Shadow Tongue with Fortune or Boom Howler, where your to hit and damage values are pick a number, and then playing like Positive Charge on Wolf and playing Kane with Rat 9, and it's like I don't have to worry about missing things. Missing things is something that happens to other people, and I'd unconsciously pursued a strategy that built in a mental vulnerability, which is not ever having to deal with failure.
All right, hypothetical for you. I've been thinking about this in some of my games. I'm dice -3 damage and 5s to hit. Do you boost the damage rolls?
How much health do you have to chew through?
Say 8 health per model.
And how many attacks do you have?
Well, in this case, I took 7.
7 attacks?
Thresher plus 3 bot, yes, into 4 models.
The answer is probably yes that you boost. By the way, this is your 4 models problem. It so depends on how badly you need it, and like when you're in the moment, like easy hits, easy damages, like you don't realize how bad you need it because you expect like I have such a high redundancy that I expect this to succeed. That's one of those things that takes like a step back recalibration, where like. If any of these fail, I'm screwed.
Yeah, it's that critical thing. I'll boost if I need a 3 or a 4 to hit you, and like I have to hit you with this spell, or I will straight up lose the game. I will boost every single time.
Yeah, it's a situation, especially because you need 11s to kill stuff, right? In one attack there. So it's like if you boost, you're counting on one-shotting stuff. If you're not boosting, you're not doing it, but you're probably. I wouldn't boost any of the attacks on here, but
that's the decision.
Not boosting damage means you're counting on hitting every model essentially twice on average.
Yeah.
Well, but here's the thing, and I told this story earlier, Andy. I had a full unit of Cav and a full unit of Slayers to charge as well to kill these 4 models. And so I started with Invictus, got my Thresher in. I thought I would just weaken the ones, and whichever one, I would Thresher, and then I would start working on a model and just work my way around and see how far I get. But I rolled such poor dice that I killed none, which was awkward. And then I charged with Slayers, and I killed 1. And then I charged with Cats, and I killed 2 more. But there wasn't a world that they shouldn't have all died in my mind, but it just didn't happen, So I was just trying to think, like, if I had taken a more sure path with the dice, would that have been better? I'm not sure. It's really 50-50 in my mind. But.
Yeah, there's a couple philosophies with it. Like, I mean, you got diced. That's just what happens sometimes, But
I agree.
But there is also a mental way to play it better, and like blaming myself for my Sean game has been a healthy coping mechanism, because I'm really reintroducing myself to the concept of like, oh yeah, not snakes. But it's like how bad do you need it? You can make all the dice calculations like, oh, it's 2% or whatever. After the dice calculations, the next question is, yeah, but how bad do you need it? And like for me, I needed it very bad. You needed it very bad. And I lost a game against Marc Andre like 2 years ago at WTC. And it was a round decider too. I had not yet learned to ask myself the question, how bad do you need it after dice calcs? And I missed a bunch of a ton of 6s and 7s into contesting pirates.
Yeah, the hard part in that situation is knowing how bad you need it before you've made the other attacks.
Yep.
I like to look at it. There's two different philosophies, right? You can go, I want to do the things that are most sure to happen. So you would like maybe charge your cats first because they have high damage and they're very likely to hit because they're boosted to hit, right? Or you can go and find the things that are throwaway, things that are low effort but low likely to happen. And if they work out, it makes your turn better. And do them first. I think you could go either way, and I'm game to game. I'm sure you could go either way, but I like leaning on those two philosophies. Basically, say, okay, I have something that I need to happen. I'm going to make the most likely way of making that happen. Do it, or throw as little resources as possible at this as a nice to have. And if it works out, my turn it just becomes astronomically easier.
Yeah. Well, I started with Invictus because I wanted to be able to Thresher. Can't really do that if my cats are standing there.
No, that makes sense.
Because it nets me 2 additional attacks, right? Because I either get 2 initials plus a spray, which probably doesn't do anything because it's power 12, or I get a Thresher that's power 18 on 4 models, and I get 3 bot 18s, power 18s, mat 7s. Seems reasonable. And I thought I would kill a model and soften a couple others up, and then I would see how far the Slayers got, and then I would make a decision with the cats because they had ample targets of opportunity, and I was trying to play in a way to give me the most flexibility to do the most damage possible. But maybe I needed to play in a different way that was make sure these 4 models die.
Remember your cats have repo too, so if they want to clear a better path for Invictus or something like that, they can kind of get out of the way and give him a better spot to stand.
Also true. Yep. All true.
I watched Malfesser the other day just destroy like an entire unit of Nashers and an entire unit of Axers, just wiped off the table with its sadding touched what do you call it, Thresher. I was like, ugh, all right, sorry, Orgoth.
Oh, that guy has Entropic Force, doesn't he?
I don't think so. Does he, Malfesser?
No, he's got Mage Static.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I know that guy has so many funky aura abilities. I forget which ones he has and doesn't have. To him.
Yeah. All right, guys, we have like 13 minutes left. So, is there like a getting better topic that we should talk about? We like to end the show with kind of something we can go over briefly to help players level up. One of the things we considered talking about this week was traveling at conventions and not making yourself sick. It's more of a joke than, it's true.
I was going to say, that is not a joke. Take your vitamin C, everybody. It's not a joke.
I'm still on the struggle bus, like something fierce.
Yeah, so for convention health, definitely you have to take care of yourself. That's really important. Something that's helped me, and this might be because of my age, I don't like to stay up super late, getting my sleep is important. Hydration and eating clean throughout the weekend has helped me perform better on the table, think clearer, versus like it's hard at a convention because it's a lot of fried and quick foods and things like that. But if you either plan ahead or research and take the time and eat cleaner, that's helped me out a lot too.
There's always somewhere you can find to get your vegetables.
The research is super worth it, knowing what your plan is ahead of time.
Yeah. The other thing is talk about personal fitness and exercise. That's helped me out a lot. So having a strong core has helped me with my back not hurting, right? Because you hear that's a big thing. We played 9 games over the weekend at Siege, and by day 3, like leaning across the table, pushing stuff. So sleeping well, eating well, and exercise has helped. It's kind of like that trifecta. I'm really good at doing 2 of those 3 things at any given time, not all 3 things at the same time, but yeah, that's helped me be able to stay not sick and up.
Brandon Owens is a very good player. If you guys ever watch him play, he's probably the most meticulous player I've watched in Mark IV, I would say, so far, just in his positioning. I mean, he's just a machine.
Yeah,
but he's also
to play against. I like playing him more table. I don't get a chance to see him in person often because we're on opposite coasts. But
yeah, he's an awesome guy. But one of the things I noticed, he was very regimented. What time he got up in the morning, what time he got to bed at night, what he ate. He was a walking drugstore. He literally had every drug you could ever. I mean, every legal drug, over-the-counter drug, and not quite. I'm not saying that, but he was just very, very disciplined. Like, we would go out to eat after the tournament, and we'd be out till like 11, and he'd be like, "Oh, sorry guys, I'm gonna bail. I gotta get to bed. I'm going to bed by 9, or whatever." And it just really struck me as like, oh, there's somebody committed to doing as well as he can, right? So, and you don't have to make that choice for yourself. It's just something to consider. If you're trying to do well at a convention, then being in tip-top physical shape for it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, all these performance events have kind of figured it out, right? Whether it's chess, or tennis, or any sport, anything where you have to perform, they've all figured out that diet, exercise, and sleep are the big things that help you perform better and help you feel a little bit better when you're in a, conventions are rough on the body, rough on the mind, rough on the immune system. So regardless of what you're doing, like if any of those 3 things are in better condition than they were before, you're gonna feel a little bit less.
Yep. I actually have to run and get something for one of my travel dues. I'll be right back.
All right. So yeah, the other thing that can really help, like you said, is planning your meals. But even if you don't plan your meals, making sure that you eat and that you have fueled your body for things.
Get some kind of vegetable at some point in the day, please.
Yes, absolutely. But I have found that a lot of people end up skipping a lot of meals during the day, and then it's really hard to perform when you're running on empty at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people who survive on protein bars for a while, and it's just like you can only do that so long.
I'm guilty of that. I go into I call it survival mode, and I think a part of that's a bleed over from my profession, where I just kind of I'll have a breakfast and then I won't eat until 9 o'clock that night.
Yep, that's usually my plan, by the way. Typically.
That's part of my routine as well. As I find I do best if I have at least one mild form of physical privation, and it's usually skip lunch.
Yeah, I think I might not even have gotten sick if I had just slept in on the Saturday that I got there. Yeah,
that's part of why I put this on here. It's you got to take care of yourself, otherwise the con crud gets you.
Yeah, anytime we get back, then we're not sick from a con, we call it a win. So we got lucky at Siege this year. No,
and Adepticon, we didn't get sick this year at Adepticon.
That was a minor miracle. I'll be honest on that one.
Yeah,
we were taking the airbornes and everything.
Yeah. Justin said he got really sick at Adepticon this year. So,
and I think at Captain Con too.
Yeah, he was deathly ill at Captain Con too.
He got bad for him.
Unlucky both times. He was rough. Our last Adepticon before this one, we were down for a week. We were really sick. I don't know what was going around there.
The crazy thing is, I remember going to conventions. I would play Werewolf till 3 a.m. I'd get up at 7. I'd shower. I'd go play 5 or 6 rounds of Warmachine.
You're crazy.
Fine.
We're old.
I know.
Now.
No,
It doesn't
I know.
I think
I know.
so for Adepticon, our WTC team was together for this year, so a lot of fun. It was the 5 of us actually got to practice and play together. And I think we scared Chris. Chris is our youngest team member. So the 4 of us are basically doing shots of Advil before round 1. He's just like,
You gotta stay ahead of it.
Yeah, you gotta stay ahead of it, man. You'll figure it out in a couple years.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, there's certain disadvantages to being half a century old. And, I learned them pretty hard this past weekend. My wife has told me I can't go back to Portland.
Just because of how bad it wiped you out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been when I got back on Monday of last week, and I've been sick. I mean, you can hear me now. Like, I can't sleep at night. I cough all night long, which is why I'm not getting better. I think it's because I can't get any sleep.
Long-lasting one.
You know, you should get checked out for strep. That might actually explain why I got it.
Could be, but the doctor said he thought it was viral for me.
Oh, sure.
He'd seen a lot of it, and there's nothing they can do for it. Let's basically like suck it up, Buttercup. It will get better. And I'm like, okay. I think technically it's better, but it's by small degrees only. So, and I'm not whining. The show goes on. We're here. Yep. Erica and Alex saved me this week.
You champed it out last week. You're champing it out this week. So I have 3 travel do's. They're all going to sound like jokes, but they're very, very serious. So you got your Warmachine bag. If you are flying somewhere, that thing is a pain in the ass to move around, and you basically never want to check it. Especially if you're like carrying around Generation 1 Storm Legion resin that snaps if you look at it funny. You know, you want to have that thing in your custody the entire time. And like, if your luggage gets lost and you show up at the venue without minis, you know, God have mercy on your soul. So, first travel do. This is a Tom Bin strap. So they're baggage, like luggage, travel clothing, and travel accessory company. Your Warmachine bag will come with some kind of strap by default, and it is not very good. This thing costs $35, and it has been worth every penny because this bit that goes on your shoulder is slightly elastic. It makes walking around for this thing, you know, through airports and like layovers and all that stuff supremely bearable. Like, you don't realize how hard it is porting a Warmachine bag until it suddenly becomes easy. Like, if you are traveling in a way where you are hopping on a plane ever, buy one of these.
What's that called again? Sorry, because my strap's broke. Hey,
she gets stuff sold to her. Come on, lady.
Yeah, what's that thing called, Alex?
So it's Tom Bin, TOM space BIHN, and this is the absolute shoulder strap. We call this the Adam strap or the Brandon strap because they were the first 2 adopters on the West Coast, and they converted absolutely everyone.
Cool. All right, well, I'm excited because my strap's been broken forever. So awesome.
Same.
Thank you.
Neither of us have a strap in our bag.
Next piece of advice: if you're going with a crew or going to somewhere that you know people there, glom on to the guy who has good taste. So this could be like Dennis from up in Portland, or David Kwan, who used to be one of my locals, or Brandon Owens, like a serious foodie. Like, you're burnt out, like, you know, you've been through the endorphin dump and all that. Like, this is the person who is going to take you somewhere where the food is really, really good and not just fried junk. And you are going to feel like not just good, but human again. You know, find either your local foodie or your foodie on the ground and just follow them around for event meals. Last one, do not fly. Like, I almost never plan my flight out for the evening after the tournament. Like, I'll look at the tournament schedule, do that head math. Like, okay, it's 2 hours around plus 10 to 20 minutes of setup plus 10 minutes of moving around between rounds. So, you know, we math out how long the last day is going to go. I always leave myself room for a comfortable sit-down meal after a con. Because the last thing you want to be doing is like, thinking about your flight and like, oh my God, the finals game got moved back, like an hour beyond the timetable I was expecting. I have to choose between making it home and finishing my game. You never want to be there. Leave yourself a buffer zone. And, if you don't need that extra time, you get to experience the camaraderie and the community that you came out for in the first place. So always be generous with your departure and leave room for a comfy sit-down meal.
I love those. Absolutely love it. That's fantastic. How do you guys feel about giant groups?
They're hard in a restaurant, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Here nor there. Warmachine tournament, it's hard to sit down all together.
It depends on the town you're in. So like, if you're in Portland, is weirdly better than most for it, but some cities just straight up can't accommodate it. Like, we always had to split up into groups for Denver, just because there was never the table space. Versus like, John, you were there one year, Irish Masters. The TOs lock the doors with everyone's models inside, and the entire 60-person tournament goes to a pub. And we occupy like a whole floor on that pub. So like Dublin is supremely set up for the large groups, but you have to know the local conditions.
Yeah. I used to be the guy that always organized the large group. And at some point I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, because it was just like so hard herding cats, because you're trying to get everybody to the same place. And then you're trying to get the servers to like serve you in a reasonable amount of time. So I've kind of adopted I'll follow along with the crew. So if there's a big crowd, happy to be in a big crowd, but I'm also perfectly happy having like a small intimate crowd after a Warmachine event. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And there's kind of a golden mean that's very cheap to extract between having to be the guy carrying the entire dinner on your back, versus like, chips will fall where they may. And this is part of why I recommend identify your local foodie. Like, in Portland, I'll be like, Dennis or Brandon, like, what's good food around here? We're going like, oh, you're going there? Okay, great. I'm going to go up to Jono and say, hey, Dennis says this place is the best, like, just let me know if you want to come with.
Very cool. All right, Erica, and Andy, do you guys want to promote the stuff that you're doing before we sign out for the night?
Go get him, lady.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for inviting us on. Thank you, everybody in the chat who was asking questions and hanging out with us tonight. This is a lot of fun. Erica, Andy, we're with Tried and True Delaware Warmachine. We haven't podcasted in a really long time, but we have a YouTube channel where we do battle reports. We do some meme videos, some unboxing, just kind of whatever we're feeling is kind of what we put out. We are local tournament organizers for our community, and then we also TO all of the Warmachine events at Nova Open, which is a convention, wargaming convention that takes place over Labor Day weekend in Washington, D.C. Because we did so awesome this year with tickets. So thank you, Warmachine community, for spending your weekend with us. We were able to move to a larger space and the big ballroom. So we're with some of the bigger fishies at the convention. We were able to increase our numbers for the IG qualifier and our 3v3 team event. We're going to have all kinds of events. We have steamrollers every day. We have a kick butt narrative that I'm sure Andy will talk a bit about, that we're very proud of. We've been working on it for a year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're super excited. SFG is going to be there. We still have seats. So if you want to come hang out with us in DC, it's a great time. It starts Wednesday evening and lasts until Sunday night. So it's a long one.
All right. I'll also point out, you guys have a Discord, right? That people should join.
Oh yeah, yes we do. Sorry, it's late.
With
yeah.
recurring Warmachine leagues that are a ton of fun. By the way.
Yes. Okay, so we do have the Delaware Warmachine Discord server. Shout out to Joe, Tyrants on the Field, hosts our monthly NAW North American War Table League. It's a blast. We have anywhere from like 40 to 60 people playing on this thing. The Discord last night had so many games going. It's a great place to hang out with the community. Ask questions, play practice games. It's a great community networking tool. We also advertise steamrollers and conventions and events. The other thing, if I can plug it, my brother, he is him and Dan were the mastermind behind this, is our community finder website. So Warmachine community finder website. We have hundreds of Warmachine communities from all across the world on that thing at this point. So if you're looking for a group in your area or you want to put out a flag, hey, I moved to this city, I want to start a Warmachine team, you can post that information there. So it's a great networking tool to help grow this game.
That was super handy. Oh, go ahead, John.
I'll send it right now.
Yeah, just send me the links to those and I'll put them in the show notes. So if you want to find the community finder or the Discord, we may eventually put, and I'm going to ask these guys nicely if we can put an Amusing Panda channel on their Discord server, because I don't want to manage another Discord server, but it might be a good place for us to talk about possible show topics that you guys want to hear about, right? So I would love that very much. Yep.
And Alex, and just real quick, Erica, on the community finder thing, that was immensely helpful for me on a personal note, because I recently relocated to the Phoenix area from the SF Bay area. Like within a couple of hours, I was talking to local organizers, figuring out where to play, and like happened to just like slot effortlessly into a community I love.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. So I travel for work. I go on that thing too, and I see what local game stores are in the area. I got linked up with Damon when I had to go to Fort Knox for something, and he happened to be in the area, and it was just yeah, it's big. I'm glad it worked for you. That's awesome.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for showing up. Thank you, Andy and Erica and Alex, for carrying me tonight. You guys were wonderful hosts. You guys are welcome anytime, or if there's something you want to promote and you just want to come on, even for just a few minutes, to talk to our crew, it'd be great.
Thank you. I hope you feel better.
Well, I will for sure. And then everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. The show doesn't happen without you. You guys are the best. We love you to death. We do it for you. So we'll see you next week, and maybe even I'll have a voice by then. Peace and love, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.